morning, everyone, and thank you for being here. It's really a privilege for all of you to join us today at the World Sustainability Conference to explore how we can turn big sustainability ambitions into practical results by aligning people, planet, and policy. I would like to welcome our keynote speaker, Professor David Hanna, to address us now, please. Professor David?
So hopefully everyone can see my slides. Can you see them, Helen?
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. Apologies for or good afternoon or good evening, wherever you're joining us from. And welcome to the World Sustainability Conference 2025, Sustainability 360, Integrating People, Planet and Policy. I'm David Hanna. I'm the Deputy Pro-Vice Chancellor for Sustainability and Director of the Birmingham Institute for Sustainability and Climate Action, Professor of Hydrology and UNESCO Chair in Water Sciences here at the University of Birmingham. And it's a real pleasure to host you and welcome you virtually on behalf of the University of Birmingham, the HITA Research Institute and the Green Institute as conference chair and with co-chair with Helen Onyeka. I'm so pleased we can welcome delegates from across our planet. I'd like to thank Adeniki Atkins, Taghi Miri, Zainab Tali Abi Zaid Al-Sharifi for all the work they've done in putting the conference together. And it's been a really privilege to work with them through the Birmingham Institute for Sustainability and Climate Action. In this short opening address, I'm going to give you some brief context for the conference, provide you with some timely reminders of the importance of the conference themes, give you an overview of the Birmingham Institute for Sustainability and Climate Action in terms of our themes and activities, and look forward to COP30, the UN Climate Summit that begins in just a week. And finally, I'm going to welcome you to stay connected with the Birmingham Institute for Sustainability and Climate Action and to stay connected with each other to be the change we want to see. So if you need some motivation as to why this conference is incredibly important and the need for research into impact, we can look at the 2025 World Economic Forum Global Risk Perception Survey, and also COP30, the UN Climate Change Summit, which begins in less than a week in the Amazonian rainforest. The World Economic Forum identified as intermediate and long-term risks, environmental and sustainability challenges in their top 4. COP30, taking place in Belém in Brazil from the 10th to the 21st of November, is considered one of the most pivotal climate summits in recent years. Many nations are behind in terms of their emissions commitments, and COP30 is a chance to get back on course and to accelerate efforts to limit global warming to within 1.5 degrees. COP30 is also a moment to move from pledges to delivery, and it follows the first global stocktake, which took place at COP28 in Dubai 2 years ago, which shows currently our efforts are far off track. So there's real risk, and there are further anticipated changes, which highlights our need to mitigate and adapt to dangerous climate change and to other global challenges and make societies and ecosystems more resilient. We need really practical action. So this conference could not be more important. Under the theme of Sustainability 360, we're bringing together leaders, policymakers, researchers, industry innovators, and community advocates to explore the interconnected dimensions of sustainable development. This conference is built on the principles of true sustainability that requires a comprehensive approach, one that integrates the well-being of people, the health of our planet, and the strength of our policies. Through the keynote sessions, through the panel discussions, the workshops, and also the collaborative dialogues, we'll examine how new knowledge, inclusive governance, equitable social systems, and environmental stewardship can converge to reshape for a more resilient and thriving future. To make this call for action for integrating people, planet, and policy as Sustainability 360 less abstract, I want to share some examples from the research that our team does here at the University of Birmingham. So as I mentioned at the start, I'm a hydrologist and work through the UNESCO Chair in Water Science, and our water cycle is changing. We're facing a water crisis due to 3 interconnected factors, and humans are exacerbating our interference in the water cycle. We have changed 77% of our land surface. Climate change is accelerating the water cycle, and water is the climate connector. And we use water directly for green water, for agriculture, for industry and domestic use as blue water, and we return polluted water back to the environment as grey water. So this creates a whole series of risks for society, for ecosystems, and feedbacks to the hydrological cycle itself. The World Meteorological Organization's State of the Climate Report showed that that 2023 and 2024 were amongst the hottest years on records, with warming at the 1.5 degree level. And we know we're going to get more extremes. And in my hydrological world, 2024 was one of the years with the most prolonged droughts and wildfires and widespread flooding. And it's estimated that 3.6 billion people face water stress at present, and this is projected to rise to over 5 billion by 2050. So that's 60% of the world's population. When we're addressing issues around the water crisis, we're dealing with so-called wicked problems because they are complex and there's high uncertainty and we have a lack of understanding. We often have a lack of data or incomplete information, and we're dealing with interconnected problems where solutions in one part may cause problems elsewhere, and we're always dealing with competing human needs. So we need new knowledge and understanding of our water cycle is changing, alongside more inclusive water management, better water governance to address Sustainable Development Goal number 6. As well as humans affecting the water cycle has impacts upon people and upon ecosystems. So this is an example drawn here from the Peruvian Andes, where we've identified in red the various risks as the climate changes, and in this environment as glaciers shrink and water resources become more challenging. But we've also identified a number of adaptation options that we can apply at the river basin scale. And we've co-created these with policymakers and with local communities. So when we're dealing with water security issues, we need to think about the challenges and think about how we can adapt and become more resilient, working all the way from the intergovernmental level down to communities. So I feel there's a real opportunity from a science perspective in terms of a convergence of technology, of data systems, and of modeling tools that we can harness, as illustrated in the bottom half of this figure. And we can use all of that knowledge in the top half of the figure to chart a roadmap to move from converging the various lines of academic advancement to increase our fundamental scientific understanding, but to work across a range of other disciplines and with non-academic stakeholders to create solutions towards a more equitable, just, and sustainable future. So in a much wider context, I'm very pleased that we are partnering for this conference with the Birmingham Institute for Sustainability and Climate Action, because our mission is to connect and to deliver world-leading transdisciplinary research, but very importantly, to use that knowledge for change in the real world. That mission is delivered through a clear set of objectives. The Institute seeks to drive transdisciplinary research with high impact, to profile our sustainability agenda, to connect up our major assets and partnerships, to act as a gateway between research and education, and provide the cultural base to keep at the University of Birmingham sustainability at heart. We're also working with business and in advisory services. And my favourite objective is that we're seeking to demonstrate, and we do, both thought leadership and practice to be a real sentinel for sustainability and climate action. The Institute has developed over the last year and a half 4 themes, which I'll outline briefly in a moment. And it's also home to another group of established research institutes and centres at the university. So around water, around plastics, the UK's Met Office Academic Partnership, the Centre for Environmental Research and Justice, our food network, and our network for green surgery. And I'll just illustrate a little bit about each of the research themes in turn. So a major focus of our work is around climate change adaptation and resilience building. So adapting to a warmer world involves building resilience, but also ensuring that communities and ecosystems can thrive despite the complex impacts of climate change. So we're seeking to advance our understanding of the barriers to adaptation and developing solutions, to think about how we can harness technologies and policies to enhance resilience, and to strengthen our capacity to navigate uncertainty and to respond effectively. What you will see for all of the research themes within the Institute is that our work is very much about connecting up externally with policymakers, with practitioners, and with the community to make sure that knowledge is used for real-world change. We have a theme around climate change and health, and this is another critical area. And here we're seeking to examine the interconnectedness between climate change, environmental sustainability, and human health. We're focusing on 3 areas, which are about understanding climate-sensitive diseases and health risks as a result of environmental degradation or pollution. We're seeking to think about some of the health co-benefits of climate change. So as we reduce emissions and improve air quality and active transport? What benefits do we gain? And we're also thinking about healthcare systems and how they're transitioning to net zero and thinking about their use of plastics. We have a theme on sustainable finance, and we were researching the integration of environmental, social, and governance factors in financial decision making, and particularly driving forward thinking around new models for sustainable business and how we measure financial performance, thinking about how we consider resilience to climate and policy risks within financial frameworks, developing new frameworks and ways of thinking around the adaptation finance gap and thinking about the economics impacts of climate change, and considering some of the investment challenges, but also the opportunities around sectors such as renewable energy and pollution reduction. And given that we're in an AI revolution, we're also leveraging the transformative role of artificial intelligence in tackling some of the world's most challenging environmental problems around climate change, biodiversity loss, and resource management. We're not just doing this in terms of leveraging new algorithms to address important environmental questions, but we're also bringing together interdisciplinary teams to think about how AI can deliver solutions that are effective, ethical, and aligned with environmental goals. For example, we've been doing some work recently on how AI models can be used to optimize energy consumption in buildings and reduce our carbon footprint. As I mentioned, COP30, the UN's climate summit, begins in exactly a week's time, and we're very much looking forward to engaging in COP30 in Brazil. We launched a report ahead of the climate summit, and the report crystallizes our thinking around 5 policy brief areas that I'll illustrate in a moment, and really tries to focus on some of the urgent climate and sustainability challenges and how we can interact better with policymakers and takers and other stakeholders. More than simply mapping the challenges within the report, what we seek to do is to think about ways in which readers can consider more equitable, actionable pathways to integrating academic rigor into real-world policy outcomes. And we do that through making policy recommendations at the UK and at the international scale. We are working across 5 policy brief areas. They're around adaptation and resilience, around equitable energy transition, around climate justice and health, climate finance, and sustainability education. You can read about some of our reflections on putting together the policy briefs and some of the lessons we've learned from putting research into practice in this article published on the University of Birmingham website. It particularly focuses on the pivotal role of universities both in the global north and the global south in bridging the domains of science policy, of development, and diplomacy. And particularly, it considers how equitable and just collaborations can ensure the best evidence and skills are used to make the best decisions and to bring sustainable solutions to the world's most pressing challenges. You can keep up to date with the University of Birmingham's activities at COP30 through the QR code on the screen and through our webpage. We have 3 events at COP itself. They include an event on Monday, the 17th of November, which is a UNFCCC Blue Zone official side event around amplifying youth and women and Indigenous voices. We have an event on Wednesday, the 19th, in the World Meteorological Organization's Pavilion on bridging research and policy for climate action, and an event on Thursday, the 20th, in the Higher Education and Climate Action Pavilion, which is around collaboration for action, thinking about international partnerships as a catalyst for system-wide climate solutions. So please join us either in line or if you're in Belém in person. So to conclude these introductory remarks, I want to come back to the purpose of this conference, which is all around collaboration, as I believe there are opportunities and benefits of collaborating better together. When we work together, our voices are louder on sustainability challenges, and when we work together, we're better creators and conveners to deal with some of these globally significant challenges. Specifically, I think there are real opportunities for us to do more around how we engage and influence and cooperate across a range of different networks, from policymakers to business to future leaders, bringing in scientists, but also civil society. That will help to enhance the quality of our research and the impact of our knowledge through co-learning and knowledge exchange. We need to do that in ways which accelerate the ways in which we pull in different diverse groups and provide training and capacity building. Research also helps for those of us within universities to inspire our students, and they will become active voices for sustainability action. And if we focus and work within our cities and regions, we can have real societal and also civic impact. And that helps us go from the global to the local so that we have impacts on the community, to the regional, to the global scale. And importantly, we need to translate our research into impact for the betterment of the planet and all of its people. So let's, during the conference, harness our collective energy and our insights to make the conference a real catalyst for innovation and progress. Together, we can turn today's discussions into tomorrow's breakthroughs and to be the change that we want to see. So we'd very much like to partner with you. Partnership is key to pulling together a diverse group of stakeholders and to work together to understand some of the blockers, but also positively some of the enablers to get research into action. And this requires dialogue from a range of perspectives. So please connect with us through the Birmingham Institute for Sustainability and Climate Action, connect with each other during the conference, and through connection and learning, let's make a commitment to being dedicated change makers and be the change we want to see. Thank you for listening, and if there's time, I'll be happy to take some questions. And apologies for the technical problems at the start. I think, Adeniki, we still can't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
We can.
Oh, perfect. So apologies for the technical difficulties and issues. Professor Hannah, it's absolute pleasure for you to join us today. Thank you so much. I wanted to follow up with some questions on co-learning and knowledge exchange. You mentioned that the importance of co-learning between scientists and civil society. So in your experience, what are the most effective ways university can structure genuine co-creation of knowledge rather than simply outreach?
I think co-creation of knowledge is absolutely critical, both to make sure the research has impact, but also for researchers to ask the most powerful and important questions and develop new ways of thinking. I think at the University of Birmingham and through the Birmingham Institute for Sustainability and Climate Action, I'm sure many others on the call as well, I think the critical thing is to start the co-creation process at the beginning when you're developing the program of research, to engage with a range of diverse stakeholders, understand for the topics that we're investigating what their perspectives are and what they would like to see, but also to work in that co-creation way, to also understand the current boundaries and limitations of the knowledge that we have, and really work together to try and frame the research questions in a way that are mutually beneficial. So we've done that at a range of scales and in a range of places, everything from working with citizen science projects in the city of Birmingham through Birmingham River Champions, to working in a range of lower and middle income countries with communities there as well, to understand some of the sustainable development challenges they have. Also, we should remember that indigenous and local knowledge, whether that's in Birmingham or in the example I showed you in Peru, is incredibly powerful. I think it's really important to note that those types of information from local communities are really rich. They are awfully much more grounded in understanding of the local environment and the cultural context, etc. And we're getting better, but we still need to do more to make sure that we respect and that we include that information in how we develop our research projects. And again, work as this conference is all about in collaborative and powerful ways together.
Very profound, Professor. I just like to have a follow-up to that. You spoke about framing research questions so that outcomes are mutually beneficial. Could you share like some practical experience perhaps from the Birmingham Research Champions project, where this mutuality changed the course or impact of the research?
It just broke up a little bit there at my end, Adeniki. Could you just repeat the start of the
Yeah, so I said I said you spoke about framing research questions so that outcomes are mutually beneficial. So could you share like a practical example from your experience, perhaps from the Birmingham Rivers Champions project, where this mutuality changed the course or the impact of the research?
Yeah, so yeah, I could give many examples, but it's good that you've highlighted the Birmingham River Champions example. So working with Dr. James White, working with a number of social psych colleagues, Sarah Hassan, Rosie Day, we have been working with local communities in the centre of Birmingham. So what's interesting about the city of Birmingham is that two of the biggest rivers in England begin in the city and flow out into the countryside. So if you like, the river catchment is upside down. We normally have your headwaters in upland environments that then flow through cities. But these rivers flow through a range of urban neighborhoods with a range of very diverse stakeholders. But Birmingham is a super diverse city. So what we've been doing is been working with those local communities to understand how they view their river environments and how we can use the local river environments to improve their health and well-being. And it's been a really powerful process in that we could, of course, we're interested in terms of some of the science around how can we implement blue-green infrastructure to reduce things like floods, droughts, and water quality extremes within the urban environment. But the river environment provides many more benefits in terms of physical well-being, people walking along the river systems, and mental health as well, than being able to be near in urban spaces, blue-green infrastructure, hear the sound of water, etc. So we've been working with very, very diverse communities to understand, particularly what they value in terms of the river environment and how we can build that into these blue-green infrastructure interventions so that we take more of a One Health concept to it, where we bring together environmental, physical, and mental well-being. And I could share it in the chat, but we've published a report on this for the part of the River Cole. It'd be great if people at the conference would like to feedback and share their examples with us too. But it's all been about co-creation. So there's been a whole range of community workshops in terms of framing it. And importantly, I'm a hydrologist working with social science colleagues, but also community leaders to make sure that we see and try and understand the different perspectives so that we reframe things in an appropriate manner.
Wow, very, very interesting project. And what skills or literacies do you believe are most urgent for the next generation of sustainability leaders? Because we have a lot of upcoming sustainability leaders on this conference right now, especially in the global south.
Yeah, so we launched as one of our policy briefs for COP30, Greening Sustainability Education Policy Brief in UNESCO in Paris in June of this year. And you might be aware that UNESCO is the United Nations Science, Educational and Cultural Organization. People often think it's economic, but it's education. So we've been working with them on what skills you need. What we feel very strongly is that skills around interdisciplinarity are critical to being able to think across traditional disciplinary boundaries, but also to make sure that we embed aspects of sustainability into the disciplinary spaces that people are working within. So what does sustainability mean? I can see people on the call in finance. You could ask Ishan Farag about that. In engineering, you could ask Helen about that. But there's the ways in which we would embed it into those different disciplines in really meaningful ways, because sustainability is everybody's challenge to deal with. But I would say interdisciplinarity and also understanding that sustainability is embedded and critical. I think also we had an event yesterday in the UK House of Commons in the Parliament, and one of our speakers was a youth voice. And I think it's so incredibly powerful when we hear about the voices of youth, what they expect from leaders, including in that case politicians and policymakers, and they help us to think about how we frame this of education for the future. But I would say embedding sustainability and thinking beyond traditional boundaries is definitely the ways that we're going to create change makers of the future.
Yeah, very profound. Thank you so much, Professor Anna. We still have some questions in the Q&A, but finally, just looking ahead, how do you envision scaling? You talk about co-learning models. How do you envision scaling these models so that what starts in a single city or university can influence global frameworks, such as the SDG or even the national adaptation strategies in different countries?
Yeah, so I think scaling and is again about working together. And what's great is being part of this conference and working with Helen's Deputy Director of the Birmingham Institute for Sustainability and Climate Action, and also Lisa Jabour, who's the other deputy, is the way we're connecting up with other sustainability institutes to work as a network and work together. I think if we're going to make changes around some of these grand challenges, we can't do that by lone voices of individual institutes, either the Green Institute saying something and the University of Birmingham saying something. We need to work together. We need to work across the global north and the global south. We need to really drive south-south exchange, because there's so many things that we can learn together in that way and bring that back to the global north. I was in Brazil 2 weeks ago, And I think it was just so powerful to be there and recognize some of the very, very significant advances they've made around things like biofuels, for example, and the learnings that we can bring globally around that. So it's about partnership. It's about joining up as an academic in a university. It's about using our knowledge and our education for science diplomacy. But at the bottom, if we're going to scale things, it's about mutual understanding and partnership, and working with diverse stakeholders and bringing it back to the policymakers.
Thank you so much. There are a lot of questions in the Q&A. If you please have a bit of time just to maybe you can answer some of them. Thank you so much, Professor Hannah. Professor Hannah has been very wonderful in terms of human collaboration, and also not just, he doesn't just speak about a lot of things in sustainability, but is also action in a lot of things. And a lot of us are inspired by work, me personally.
Thank you.
Hannah, so thank you so much for that. And yeah, so we'll continue the conference, and also apologies for the technical itch that we faced in the beginning of the conference. So thank you so much, Sarah, for joining us.